Hello and welcome to episode 402 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now I'm joined by a very special guest today. If you're a fan of Alter Bridge, Creed or Tremonti, you're going to be absolutely blown away because I'm joined by the man himself, Mark Tremonti. A guest I've been wanting to get on this podcast for a number of years, an absolute legend, genuinely an icon and a guitar hero. I know so many people that love and adore this guy, and I'm so glad that it's actually finally happened and he's joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast. Or maybe it's the Mark and Mark podcast this time round. Who knows? But before I give you that interview with me and Mark Tremonti, let's quickly touch base and talk about my last episode. It only came out a few days ago, but I was joined by Matthew Murphy, or Murph, from the Wombats. This interview blew up. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that checked it out, all the amazing comments that you all left, and just the great numbers. It was so good to see, and I'm so grateful to the band and to him for obviously sharing the episode as well. That's what helps this podcast and gets the word out there, and I'm so grateful to everyone that does it. But today, it's all about Mark Tremonti. But just before we give you that interview, let's give a shout out to the first sponsor of Mark and Me, Vice Press. As it's coming towards Christmas, you want to get yourself, or try and treat someone else, to a beautiful frame poster, or just a normal print. And the best place to go is vicepress.com. And the good thing about these guys is it's all licensed, and the best thing is you're going to get 10% off your first purchase. All you have to do when you get to the checkout is go into the discount box and enter the code MarkandMe10. That's the number 10, so MarkandMe10, and you get yourself 10% off, which is awesome. So let me know if you go and get yourself some cool stuff, and I can't wait to see what you all treat yourself to. But today, like I said, it's all about the legend, and I use that word with pride, Mark Tremonti. I think the best thing to do is to get to the interview, so here's me and Mark talking all things music. So Mark, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. What I do, Mark, with all guests that come on is I always like to take it right back to the very beginning. I'm always intrigued, especially with music guests, maybe when you're growing up, that first album that maybe you bought with your pocket money or was given to you by a friend or family that you can just remember that first time listening and just absolutely fell in love with.
The very first album I bought was the J. Giles Band Love Stinks album. And
nice.
I loved it because it was whenever I heard a song where the band would drop out and it would just be a guitar hammering on power chords, it was something that drew me to. I wanted to do that. You know, I wanted to buy a guitar. I wanted to learn how to play guitar. And that J. Giles Band Love Stinks title track did it for me back then.
That's a hell of a tune. And after doing 400 episodes, no one's picked that. So you're the first to bring it to the table. And did you already know at such a young age of listening to that, especially like you said about the music and the vocals cutting out and it just leading with a guitar riff or a power chord or something? Did you know at that point that that was something you wanted to do? You wanted to buy a guitar yourself or save up and get one and become a guitarist?
Absolutely. And that every time I heard a song do that, I was so drawn to it. Even before when I was a little kid, you know, I think hearing Rick Springfield, you know, your parents will listen to Rick Springfield or whatever it was on the radio, and you have a song like Human Touch drop into just the guitar, or Boston. You know, every time that would happen, I was just drawn to it. I remember I had a friend whose older brother was a metalhead and listened to a bunch of, punk stuff too, a bunch of Black Flag and Minor Threat. Whatever he was listening to in his bedroom, he would be playing a guitar along to it. And I'd ask my friend, I'm like, you think your brother would let me see his guitar? He's like, no, my brother will kick your ass if you touch it. That made me even more drawn to it. I wanted to play a guitar. And I asked my parents for a few years to get me a guitar. It never happened. And then finally, my friend in school was buying a better guitar and sold me his for $10.
That's a bargain.
$10 for my first axe.
Did you at that point turn around to your parents and say, "This is what I want to do as a job," and give them the fright of their lifetime, or were you kind of waiting till later on until you kind of learnt some songs, did the whole battle of the bands, got in loads of groups, and then turn around and say, "This is the job I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life"?
By the time I had to make that decision, I was in charge of my own life. My parents were, and I'm glad they were like this. But when I left the home, I was on my own.
Yeah,
I paid for my college education. I paid for my apartments and my everything else. So when I got a record deal in college, there was nobody really to ask if I could quit college. I knew I could come back to finish school. I knew this was a once in a lifetime opportunity when getting a record deal. And I remember it being finals week. And all my friends who finished their finals would go out and party. And I had to keep on studying for my finals. And I'm a responsible guy. So I finished my finals and I didn't just close the book and say I got a record deal and split.
yeah. What about live music then? So my first introduction was I can't remember the exact year. I think I was 12 or 13, but I went to Wolverhampton, and the first gig I went to was Green Day. They were on their Dookie tour, and I was absolutely blown away. I was just absolutely in awe of Billy Joe Armstrong, thinking that he could play these songs, sing and play the guitar, and there was only three people on stage. I just couldn't believe there was so much sound. And from that moment, I thought I want to be in a band. And then I got obviously into Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and all those. But I wondered if your first experience of live music was a really good one, or was it an embarrassing one that you don't always tell people?
No, it was an amazing one. It was Iron Maiden was my
Oh
first
wow,
concert.
fucking hell!
So it was the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son tour.
Wow.
Uh, it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ace Frehley's Comet might have been opening up for that show. And I caught one of Ace's picks because I was a little kid in the front, and you always, got to look out for kids up there. Um, but I've always wanted to do this. I remember I got to work when I was in college. I went to the school cafeteria, and there was a sign on the wall that said Ozzy Osbourne local crew sign up. And there was a sheet of there must have been 150 people that signed up to do the local crew. And this was something you're going to work 10 hours and make $40, but I still wanted to do it. And I had signed up, and as I was signing up, somebody walked by me, was taking the thing. They said, "Hey, just so you know, one of the top people here on this chart just said they couldn't do it. So if you want to do it, you're a shoe-in."
Oh
So
wow.
I worked local crew for Ozzy. I got to go on as the guy who I was working hard there. So I wanted to meet Zach Wild. I never got to meet him, but I did get to go on Ozzy's bus and watch some footage from some live stuff. And uh, it was a cool experience. I just saw that environment and I wanted to be in it. I think Sepultura and Alice in Chains were the support on that show. It was
Jesus,
pretty,
that's insane.
yeah.
It sounds a bit like the film Almost Famous. You were like in the right place at the right time, and it just seems like it was fate and maybe meant to be that you were just meant to be there for that guy to say, "Do you want us to take that spot?"
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. It was perfect, and it gave me more of the drive I already had to be able to. I wanted to get on that tour bus, and I wanted to tour around the world doing what I love to do. And now I'm in Texas on tour, so it's great.
It's amazing, and with the time we've got, obviously it's impossible to cover your whole music career. But with Creed, I was about 15 when My Own Prison came out, and it was it was like there's a few albums that have come out in my time. Obviously, stuff like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, which we've already talked about, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Deftones. There's these certain albums, and My Own Prison, it just blew up. I remember going on watching MTV and staying up, and your video was you only had to put on MTV if you wanted to listen to Creed because it was always on. It was incredible, and I wondered at that point if you ever could have anticipated it blowing up the way it did because it was. I'm not saying it's an overnight success because obviously you worked on that album for a few years, you were in a band for a while to get to that point, but you could have never imagined the success that came with that album in 1997.
No, we were pretty much kids. We didn't know what to expect. So when it started doing well, it was like I say, it was never overnight. We had to get in the van and tour around the country. Where we would actually drive the van and and take turns sleeping on the ground in the van. And it was, when we would see, oh, the single went number one, the first single, that was a huge moment for us, and then, but the whole way you're kind of fighting for survival. It was after the first single did well, people would say, a lot of bands are one-hit wonders. You guys are going to be a one-hit wonder. And then the second single does well. And then when the first record does well, they're like, all right, you're going to have your sophomore slump on your second record. And it's a bunch of doubtful people the whole way. So it's the whole time. I'm glad for it now, because the whole time we're fearful of losing our dream here. So we worked extra hard to make the next record better. And I think I felt like I was fighting for survival in this business until one moment during Alter Bridge. I think it was the third record where I'm like, all right, done this long. If I just keep working hard, I'll be able to do this as long as I want.
That's awesome. And I think there's so much pressure on a band that has great success with their debut. So when Human Clay came up, can you remember, it must be hard now because it's quite a long time ago, but can you remember even being able to digest that and that pressure that was on you as a band? Because, some people work up to maybe their third or fourth album to then start getting the spotlight and getting radio play and then getting on the MTV. But with that number one single and all that pressure, it must have been really tough to kind of just even try and step up to that kind of challenge.
Yeah, it was definitely different. Like when we're doing the Creed tours now, I feel way more confident. And back then, we were, like I said, I felt like we were kids. We didn't have things worked out yet. We went from being a bar band to an arena band within a few years. And we didn't have the time to work out what it took to get at that point. And you also had a lot of people trying to shoot the band down. It was anytime you're that big up and coming band, you're going to have your lovers and your haters. And Creed got a lot of, we had a target on our back for a lot of those years. And when you're on stage, you keep that in mind, and you're like, some people want me to fail. It was,
it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a tough time. Nowadays, I have nothing to prove. So you're on stage doing the Creed thing, just enjoying it. You're enjoying these songs that have survived all these years. And like I said, back in the day, you were always trying to prove yourself and fight, and like I said, fighting for survival. So I think we can enjoy it now more. It was exciting back then, but it was also scarier back then.
Were you able to ever take a step back? I know obviously a lot happened over those that original run of 10 years. Were you able to ever kind of see the growth and appreciate what was happening, or was it just too much of a whirlwind, like going at the festivals and seeing your name going up the bill quite fast, the crowds getting bigger, more merch selling, people singing your songs, and then each night the crowd getting bigger and more people singing along? Or was it just too much of a kind of you're too involved with it being the band themselves?
Yeah, I think all those things you said are were exciting. Seeing the record sales, when the owner of the record label would call you and say, we sold this many records this week, and they're all excited about it, gets you excited. But with success comes stress, tons of stress. It was, the record label was, making hundreds of millions of dollars, selling records with Creed and Evanescence and all the bands that they had going on at the time. And we were going through business managers and record labels and agents, and when it turns into this big successful machine, you got to watch your back, because it was there's a lot of the wrong people that got drawn to that. A lot of people were coming around that are no longer with us anymore, that were detrimental to our careers. And we've made a lot of bad mistakes along the way, because when you're a young college kid who is now a successful professional musician, you sign bad contracts. You just want to be nice. You don't want to, hey, why does this contract say this? You're just like, oh, I appreciate you even writing up this contract. And you sign stupid things, so I wish I could go back and smack my younger self and say, yeah, don't always try to please everybody. Don't always try to be the nice guy. Look out for your future and be smart about it, because uh, like I was the kind of kid I didn't want to offend anybody because I was getting this great opportunity to do what I loved.
Yeah, it's not easy, or is it, to please everyone?
Yeah.
So, what blows my mind sometimes and doing research, I've seen you, I think it was last year at Download, and Alter Bridge, I couldn't believe have been going 20 years. I still feel that you guys are quite a new band, if that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
never realized it was that long. I was like, surely it's only 10 or 11 years. And the talk of everybody at that festival, I was doing a lot of press over the weekend, is that Alter Bridge should be headlining Download. And it was this huge respect in the industry, especially at Download Festival, where everyone's so hard to please. But I do believe that in the next 2 or 3 years, that should be the next move for you. I mean, to be in a band like Creed, but also have Alter Bridge as well, that could both headline the festival, that must be an amazing position to be in.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, Alter Bridge was, it's our, we take a lot of pride in it. It was a lot of uphill battles with Alter Bridge. That was not the overnight-esque kind of thing that we had with Creed. It was, I think, if anything, Creed hurt the beginnings of Alter Bridge.
Yeah.
We had to form our own voice, and people were especially in the United States, we were in the beginning. Oh, Creed Part Two, and this, and they always just try to use the old. Anybody who had any kind of negative things to say about Creed, they threw it at Alter Bridge. So we had to do our best to shake that, and it took us a few albums, but now what we've built is such a solid fan base, and I think we're recording our eighth record in March, and we're just very proud of what we've done with it. It's we try to make it sound as different from Creed as possible, and it's a different vision. So when I go back to Creed, I want to make Creed sound like its own thing, and yet we compartmentalize all these bands.
I genuinely don't know how you keep up, because obviously you've got your own stuff. You've got Creed, which you're on tour with at the moment. Then obviously you're doing your new album with Alter Bridge. You've got a new album with Tremonti. You had the release and the tour with the Frank Sinatra stuff. When do you sleep?
This is the toughest year of my career. I can't do this every year. I've got to start um, spreading stuff out, because it's with the success of Creed that's happened recently. It's really changed my the workload. It's crazy, So it's we just had one Creed tour planned, but it did so well. We scheduled the next, but I'd love to do the Sinatra thing way more. I only got to do 5 shows at the end of the year here, so it's I think I did a few at the beginning of the year, but I want to do more than a dozen shows a year. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do, and it's just a shame not to travel around the world doing that as well. But there's only so much time.
When you take on an absolute legend like that, and within the community you see people's comments like, I can't believe you're going to try and sing his work, how do you get the confidence just to think, I don't care about the hate, I don't care about the trolls, I'm just going to do it? Do you just let your voice do the talking and allow your music to kind of speak volumes and go out there and try and shut everyone up? Because once I saw that you released the music and people got to hear it, I didn't see one negative comment.
I've seen that's been the most positive thing I've ever done in my career.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing where I've gotten a response from so many of my heroes about it. I could have written 1,000 records before some of these people would have taken notice. One of the most exciting things that ever happened with this record was I remember I was over in Europe doing a tour, and I got off stage and I got a text message from my friend Tom Robb, who is worked security for a bunch of folks over the years. He's worked for Creed, and he worked for Metallica, and a bunch of folks. But he said, "Hey, I'm driving Robert to Bonnaroo." Robert being Robert Plant, and he
Wow.
said, I asked him if I could play your record for him, and he was blown away and loved it. I'm like, Robert Plant listened to my record and enjoyed it. That was one of those things. I'm like, could you get a quote for me? I
Yeah,
never
stick
got,
it on the back of the poster. Yeah.
but I did get a lot of nice comments. Slash had a very nice things to say about the record. Paul Stanley, you know, uh, Hank, the producer for the duets, Frank Sinatra's biggest selling record, uh, said a lot of great things. I got to sing My Way to Tina Sinatra as she held my wife's hand.
That's pretty much a
It,
pinch myself moment.
yeah, it's one of those things I tell people. I'm like, when they ask me how the experience has been, I'm like, well, imagine being a young kid growing up and idolizing Metallica and getting to play with Metallica and getting to play with Black Sabbath and all these great bands. But Frank Sinatra is just a whole nother. He's the world's biggest. He was the very first, I think, pop
Yeah,
star.
yeah, that's fair.
Bing Crosby was a huge recording artist, but Bing Crosby didn't have people waiting in the snow for 4 hours to get into their show. He'd have, when he was playing the Paramount in New York, he'd have people just wetting their pants because they didn't want to leave their seats to the show. He was the first huge star like that. So to be able to record a record with people that shared the stage with him was, when I'm an 80-year-old man, 90-year-old man, if I live that long, I look back on my career, that's going to be my most.
It's unbelievable. It doesn't seem real, does it?
No, no, and the things we've done with it is what I'm more proud of. We've when I was practicing this stuff, I was thinking, like you were saying earlier, that people won't get it. Why would I sing a Frank Sinatra record? But I was singing it and I felt really good about it. It just felt like it fit my voice very well and I loved it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. When I got the diagnosis that my daughter was going to be born with Down syndrome, I was like, you know what? This was all meant to be. I had read a lot of biographies about Frank Sinatra being this hugely charitable person. And it's a shame that people don't talk about that more because he raised over $1 billion for charity. So I said, it's one of those stars aligning moments where I was meant to do this record and spread the word and raise money and awareness for the Down syndrome community. And with the money that we've raised, we opened up the very first lifespan Down syndrome clinic in the southeastern United States, and we've gotten over 300 patients in the first year. So that's
unbelievable.
That's my favorite thing I've ever been a part of in my career, and to have music spill into something like that is just that's what it's all about.
It feels like the biggest pat on the back, and to be able to get your music to do such a powerful thing, especially something so personal to you, is the ultimate success, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, yeah, everything fails in comparison.
So, with all your bands, with your solo work, with Creed, with everything we've talked about today, with having your own signature PRS guitar, which I had one when I was learning guitar, and I was blown away by it. What is left that you? Oh, look at that! That is stunning. Wow, that is so good. Mine was the cheaper version. Mine's the $500 version. I wasn't as well off, but it was still nice to have. And but I did get Paul Reed Smith to sign it, which was really good at a convention once. So the back scratch plate has got PRS's guitar signature, which is lovely.
Paul, as we were talking, Paul was calling me. I had to send him the voicemail.
Ah, that's good. I'm more important than PRS right now.
Well, I call Paul back. Paul's he's an awesome guy. We talk about gear all the time. So we're working on some projects that we're excited about.
That's exciting. So I was going to say, is there anything left to do when you feel that you've probably achieved all you can in music with your solo stuff, with the bands, with your own guitar, with the charity work, taking on the biggest voice in the world and doing your own version? I just wonder, is there a book you'd like to write about? Is there a film you'd like to see made?
Yeah, I'm actually, you hit the nail on the head. I'm one of my biggest bucket list item things is to become a published author, and I've written one book that I finished called A Dying Machine, but that was a co-write with John Shirley, and then I've just finished another book that I just wrote exclusively, and then I'm in the middle. I'm about 200 pages deep into a novel that might take me forever to finish, but I want to get a publishing house to take me under their wing and see what happens. So that's one of my biggest goals in life.
So if anyone's listening today from a publishing company and they're thinking, yep, we'll give him that deal,
And just think, I travel around the world where I can go to bookstores on my days off and I can market this thing.
That's it.
I'm
You could be at all the bookshops doing signings all day.
traveling book salesman.
Ah, see, this is where it all happens, and then hopefully in a couple of months you'll be like, "Oh, Mark, someone did listen to that podcast. I've just signed the deal. I'm spending the next 6 months in every bookshop in the whole of America
Well,
because of Mark
hope,
and me."
hope somebody like Simon and Schuster, you know, so
So good. So the rest of the year, I suppose, is just touring, spend some time with the family with Christmas, and then start again with more new music and a tour at the start of the year. I don't think you've got any real big time off, have you?
no, this is the busiest year of my career. So we did the 40 shows this summer with Creed. I did a month off in October where I had to write and record about 9 demos for Alter Bridge's record, and then back on tour right now. We go all the way through the first week of December, and then when I get home, I get right into the to the Sinatra shows. We have 5 Sinatra shows in December, and then we go from the Sinatra shows to a few days off for Christmas, and then we go to Las Vegas for a few
Wow.
shows for years, and then straight into rehearsals for Tremonti to prepare for the European tour, which happens in January, February. The new Tremonti record comes out January 10th, and then we jump as soon as that tour is over. I jump in the studio with Alter Bridge in March. The good thing about the studio is it's in my hometown. It's 10 minutes from my house, so I get
That's
to
really good, yeah. Still get the like work-life balance and see your family.
yeah. And with the good thing about the Creed tours is my family's out here. They've been out here for most of it. So the very first tour we did, they were out for the first 5 weeks of it. So it was summertime. Now that they're back in school, they come out for for Thanksgiving break. They'll come back out. They were just out here for the first week of this tour. Um, that's one thing that of as long as my time with my family doesn't suffer,
Yeah.
I'll stay as busy as I can professionally. But right now, I've been
It
lucky
sounds
enough.
like you've got the real perfect balance. I mean, some bands you hear about them going on tour for 6 weeks and they literally don't see their family or loved ones. And it's great that you've got that balance where they're there with you and getting to experience this journey and go on it with you the whole way.
Yeah, and especially right now when my daughter's only 3 years old, I can't miss 6 weeks of
No,
being. My boys are, my oldest is in college now, so my second is 15, so he's got a couple more years of high school left. But I see them. Me and my kids are really really close. So it's you know got a lot going on, but that's the most important thing by far. If they told me to quit, I'd quit tomorrow. But they love it. They love coming out here and seeing it all.
you've definitely got your priorities right. My final question, because I'm aware of time, I ask this to everyone that comes on the podcast, is I'll edit this episode. It'll all be polished and ready for the world to listen to. And what I do is I ask the artist that comes on to pick a song they would like played at the very end of the interview. But it doesn't have to be a song by yourself or any of the bands you're in. It can be a song that means a lot to you. And what I normally find is obviously there's probably 1,000 songs in your head, but I want the one that comes to you first that maybe you just didn't even realize came there, and then we'll add that in. But it's more about the reason for the song than the actual song itself.
Well, how about the Commodore's Night Shift? That's
Nice.
that's one of my all-time favorites. That's kind of the song, not to be dark, but I want that played at my funeral. That's the going out song. That's just one of my favorite songs when I was younger. I was into hard rock and metal, but that song would come on the radio, and I was just always drawn to it. If I'm singing karaoke, I'm singing the Night Shift on the
That's
karaoke.
hell of a tune. I don't think it's dark. I've got mine lined up because I never want to. Not that I'll be there to witness it, but I want to make sure that my song that I want at my funeral is the right one. So I've always said I want Jeff Buckley, "Last Goodbye,"
There you
uh,
go.
just because it's an absolute masterpiece of an album, and that song just is unbelievable. So I think it's good to get it out there to make sure no one plays the wrong song on the day.
Right. That's right. Sometimes it's too late to let them know which song should be played. So now we know.
Exactly. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've obviously got limited time with you, and I hope that when you're over in Europe, I will speak to management and try and come to one of your shows and say hello, and we'll grab a drink and catch up. But I wish you all the luck with every single project you've got going on. I don't know how you keep track, and the charity work and everything you're doing sounds amazing, and I'm really excited now by the prospect of a new book coming out as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's have a drink over in the UK.
Thank you, and good luck with the rest of the press today, and thanks for everything today.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and the absolute legend, Mark Tremonti. It's been a long time coming, but it was worth the wait. What a lovely guy, so humble, such a genuine person, and it's so nice that he's been able to give me the time to come on Mark and Me and celebrate his success, because my God, Creed are back, they're touring America, they're bigger than they've ever been. He's got Alter Bridge, which I can't wait to see next year. I can't wait to hear new music. And obviously you got Tremonti, and their new single's absolutely awesome. I can't wait to see him again next year. There's just so much happening. I genuinely don't know how he's going to ever get any time to sleep. And you heard he's going to hopefully do a book. So it's insane. But I really hope I can get him back on face to face next year for longer. And it was an absolute blessing to have him on. I hope you guys at home have all enjoyed today's interview. If you have, please take the time just to share it. I ask this every episode because it's so important and it really goes a long way. I do also have a podcast Patreon. That's basically to keep the lights on. To host a podcast on all these different directories costs a lot of money. So if you go on there, the link's on markandme.com. You can sign up. It's literally £2 a month. That goes right back into the podcast and then gets me to go out there and record more interviews for you guys at home. Before I go, I want to give a big shout out to Kirsten Sprinks. She's the reason that this podcast happens. She's the reason I get all these great guests, and I'm so grateful, and I love you to bits. And finally, let's give a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. Without those guys, I genuinely wouldn't be here. So if you're in the market for a brand new huge TV, a surround sound system, a record player, headphones, anything to do with audio and visual, go on richersounds.com or go to any of their high street stores and treat yourself. Right, it's never going to slow down on Mark and Me. I've come to that realization, but I'm excited. I can't wait to give you loads of interviews over the next few weeks, and there's so much variety, I just literally can't wait. So, until then, look after yourself, take care, go and listen to Tremonti, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
He was a friend of mine, and he could sing a song. His heart in every line. Marvin sang of the joy and pain. He opened up our mind, and I still can hear him say, oh, talk to me so you can see what's going on. Say you will sing your song forevermore. Gonna be some sweet sounds coming down on the night shift. true singing crowd.
No